are karstic. I don't know if it's the word. They go underground and then they came up when it's the moment, and it's just I see many ideas, strength, people gathering in many different ways in this period, and I think something is growing up, and and we just need uh, to keep to find the focus of it. And I think the work we are doing on decision making, the ideas on dialogue, the ideas on how to make visual assemblies, that is how to think together in different ways than the old colonial ways. All of this is summing up in something that is new and that isn't new, is something uh, that comes from the past in a way. The Benjamin's Augenblick, in a way. So I'm rather optimistic, and I think we have the memory of ancient revolutions, and this memory is bigger than we think, and I think this will came up when the moment comes, and I think the moment is coming.
Yeah, I'm also sure the moment, in the moment, my feelings, it's pretty soon. It's a very much like, I have very much the same feelings as it was at the end of Soviet Union, because at the end of Soviet Union, it was, so I was totally sure that, and Andreas maybe can confirm or like, comment on that. So when I was 16 years old, I was sure it will be forever, because Soviet Union was very big, 350 million people. We have nuclear, not counting the Warsaw Agreement, like where Anka lived and so on, only Soviet Union. We have a nuclear umbrella. We actually use everything possible on Earth, like an oil and gas and so on and so forth. So it all was destroyed, like from Monday to Tuesday, like in one day, basically, just because it's become like, public consensus that is not a reality anymore. And that's what happens during pandemic. Like so many things that was considered to be said, money not grown so tree, this is essential jobs, and this is not, so this is how like the social ladder created, everybody has to get education. So all of this common knowledge just collapsed during 1 year. So I think it's where we're like, we'll see very soon the same situation as it was in Soviet Union. My feelings about that. What do you think, Andreas? Did it remind?
Yeah, I remember I sort of share that history with you. I was living in Latvia, so we had this like almost like a colonial sort of perspective because it was like the occupied territory, so to say. But yeah, I remember that very well because it seemed really like, and I remember reading a very interesting article. I will try to recall that it seemed that it would be forever until it was over. Like you could never ever imagine that that monster would collapse. It seemed like, I don't know, like the UFO, if somebody would come from outer space, like that something could happen. It seemed like unshakable system. Like, I don't know, if you go now to China or somewhere, I mean, and then just one day it collapsed. Yeah, that was quite bizarre. And perhaps that's why also I think, yeah, that's where you, perhaps, and me as well, you've sort of experienced how sort of fictional all things are. I mean, starting from your own identity, because that identity and that collective memory that you were raised up onto was like in one day was not valid any longer. So you had to sort of construct something else, and then you did that, and then there was a moment when you entered in Europe, and then you had to sort of. So in the end, like, I mean, that's all kind of adaptive thing, and so yeah, that's an interesting example, I think, and that's something that gives hope to me as well, because it's something that really you never think that would have this opportunity to collapse, but it did. So I don't know, yeah, it's a good example. And I think something is going on now, right now, because for sure you see how many things are superfluous, like while sitting home. Like, I mean, there's a whole of situations which you finally see clearly that they are totally kind of fake or invented. All this like rush that you have to run. I mean, it's long time, 1 year to be somewhere, like, you know, on your own. So I think so many things that just by being on your own have, like, they have collapsed. Like, I don't know, you've seen that they're completely fake problems, so to say, or they are badly posted questions or other things. I mean, like, you can perfectly survive without, like, many things. And I was thinking a lot about art, actually. Like, like I'm quite okay without art exhibitions, I must confess. I am in Venice. There was a kind of, I thought during the summer, okay, yeah, there used to be the Biennale, but I cannot say that I missed it. I missed maybe the people, but not the exhibition itself. I missed, yeah, the community that comes and some things. But so, yeah, how much of that is, like, really necessary, and in which forms and which ways, and how much of that is also, like, that we thought couldn't be the other way, but it can, as you can see, you know. Yeah, so all these things, it's just interesting what will come out of it, because I know, like, for myself, but I'm wondering on a greater kind of level of the community. But I can tell you that there's a lot of, yeah, it's interesting, and also a lot of students, they are, like, really, like, it will leave a mark, and I just wonder what will happen afterwards. So I don't know if it's going to be better or worse. I cannot predict. But yeah, Soviet Union collapse is a good example, Nika.
And it's interesting in France at the moment. Well, it's interesting. There was a meme that was going around that was saying, you know, because all the museums and all the cinemas and all the theatres are shut in France, and there's been a ceasefire, a curfew, so everyone has to go home at 6, and that's been going for months. And there's a meme going around that, you know, well, the only people that care about all the museums and the art galleries and the theatres that are closed are the artists. But what's interesting is that actually today, I think as I speak, there are 60 theatres occupied across France, including the Opera House and in Nantes here, and yeah, the Odeon, which was occupied in '68 as well. The sad thing is that it's kind of just, well, we just want to get back to normal. But it was interesting. We were faced with this thing. It was like, oh wow, all the theatres are shut. And I mean, I come from a theatre and a fine art background, and so we were like, oh, we should try and think about organising and maybe go and do some talks or workshops in these occupied theatres, and maybe we should produce a document that says, you know, well, actually here is, you know, suddenly we're at this crisis moment, and do we want to go back to the world as normal, and do we want to continue theatre for the bourgeoisie, in the elite, in the museums for the elite, you know, in those walled places? Surely this is the chance to think about art in a different way. And then I was watching videos of the people in the theatres going, you know, so depressed and saying, you know, we haven't got any food, we can't eat. I mean, they were exaggerating, but, you know, we're dying of not being able to do this stuff, which is not true, because French social, you know, help is huge. But we were like, yeah, well, we can't really do that. They just want to go and keep doing theatre. This isn't the moment. This isn't the moment to say, expand your notion of theatre. But, you know, 60 theatres are now occupied across France, you know. I hope they can do some links with some of the Teatro Valle stuff and the stuff that was happening in Italy, the occupied theatres in Italy, but I don't know if that's the case.
I think links are most important. So thinking about how Soviet Union collapsed, I totally remember how in the beginning it was very hopeful move, So because everything already was collectivized, and the country was actually rich, and then because of that stupid ideology of democratic capitalism, is like joke, kind of infected everyone. And then what happens, the elite, the very small group of oligarchs, they were acted collectively, very collectively, with a lot of links to each other, and they took everything over. And meanwhile, all population was atomized, and they were like a bunch of individual heroes who was just fighting for themselves, and everybody got defeated. And of course, it's, I don't know, probably everybody knows that here that this 10 years after perestroika was horrible for I don't know how in Latvia, but in Russia, for example, people would die and from starvation, really, and nobody died from starvation in Soviet Union, So people eat badly, some people eat badly, but it was no starvation, and no homeless kids, no criminals on the streets. So if only people knew what perestroika bringing, there would be no perestroika for sure, like no question asked. So the real, I think, kind of dilemma is not that the change are coming, it's just, and it will be this moment of break of the system, is just, would it be possible to create all these links and just not allow the core group to organize and conspire against everybody else. And it's all as simple as that. And maybe it's possible, because we 30 years ago, it happens in all this Soviet Union, that was half of the world population in a way, less a little bit, but more or less it was one of the two world system. And so we can analyze how it went there and try to prevent that.
And I think, sorry.
I was thinking that I have the same with in Romania. So after the collapse of so-called communism, it was just so bad, and the problem, all the efforts were put into destroying what was happening, rather than imagining what can follow. The links are important, but also, looking at, I think we have already examples of models that are working. So it's kind of finding alliances with this before we destroy, because it's a lot of confusion when destruction happens, and during the confusion it's so easy, you can be distracted, and suddenly you just realize something really, like in Romania, the revolution was televised. We were all watching, how Ceausescu was killed. Yay, we made it. And then suddenly, what the hell happened? We just all, is just horrible failure.
Yeah, we talked with Fanka that in Romania it was no hospital bills for 30 years after Ceausescu was killed, And now the hospitals are burning because they not build new hospitals, they don't renovate it, the one that left from this ex-Soviet times. So it's total mess. If you can imagine something worse than what was before, that's it. And we can very well imagine that something that coming after capitalism could be much worse,
But you know what? I just caught myself on this very mean kind of idea I was thinking, but we're somehow used always to think that things will always get better, like that, the same as the capitalism or the economy will always grow. One thing that I think, should always realize is that if there is a huge crisis, then there will be a kind of aftermath, and which will not be something better, and then maybe you can elaborate something new. I don't know why I always thought, yeah, of course, like I had this imaginary that, you know, Western democracy would be the most brilliant system. And today, like I mean, I felt like I was thinking about this some time ago. Like, I mean, if I would ever, like, I couldn't even imagine that it could go as bad, and if I could, I would probably not be wishing to be here, like, in first place. So yeah, I mean, first of all, also, what can be our, like, what can this imagination thing? It's a bit dangerous and tricky, and first of all, like, also, yeah, what can we imagine, and what are the things that we can think of, like, to really, that are better? Because I mean, if we are quite used, and I think now the system is quite tremendous, because I think this is a peak, because like it has been all the time this, I think one of the main characteristics is this fragmentation, you know, on all levels, like, and in all kind of forms possible. And so that's why, for example, what they are doing, you are doing at ZAD, this is something that goes totally against that logic, you know, which is to fragment people, like physically, socially, and in all other ways. And so if there are any alternatives, they are kind of just seen as something completely dangerous. And even like, yeah, so how to go against that fragmentation, as you said, Nika, also in the Soviet Union, maybe when there was just a small group of people that took hold of all that, you know, they managed somehow to take the advantage of the situation. Because, yeah, so. And nowadays, like, what through that fragmentation, the other thing is that there is this, you know, the ever-winning egos that are everywhere. Like, we are all used to think that we are, like, you know, this cult of individuality, and that what we think matters, and all collective kind of forms of collaboration, like, we're almost unable to, we don't know how to collaborate, really, like, and so, yes, a lot of things have to be also reinvented. Like, if there will be a crisis, I don't know if things aren't necessarily immediately going to get better, and to make them better, we should maybe think of some new things rather than always thinking that, yeah, something. I mean, it has never been better so far, so why should it be now? I don't want to end on a depressive note, but really, like, first of all, maybe we should change some expectations or things. Otherwise, I mean,
I think we should also look at thinking about the end of Soviet Union. Yugoslavia was like a great, very important place, because Yugoslavia wasn't Soviet Union or Romania. They actually had the workers running factory. They were like, you know, they were like, maybe that's why the whole destruction started from them, and the war was created there. And Germany was the first country who recognized Croatia, and that's how it all started. But so Yugoslavian model is amazing. And I don't know, like, thinking about Russia, I know a lot of Russian, personally, a lot of Russian oligarchs, and it's striking how small was the group of people who took over the country. It wasn't like, you know, the like a, you know, conspiracy of it was like really tiny. So maybe we can create a tiny group and just, you know, propagate like Yugoslavian model together with like different ways, and then, you know, when the moment comes, that just looks could be pretty soon, then the things will go better for everybody, because it's a common sense. So something about being a common sense.
I like what someone said about memory. Someone said that we still have the memory, and a few years ago I traveled to Bosnia, and we were asking them about what happened, and they were saying we are Yugoslav, we are Yugoslavians, you know, like, so sorry, Simona, I interrupted you.
Oh, don't worry. Just
learn how to cooperate is something many groups have done in the last 20 years. With Anka, we interviewed a group that is in Bologna, and they are fantastic. And there is the Teatro Valle experience and experiences in Naples. And I'm just talking about Italy because I know it. But I think the work Anka, the work we are doing about the decision-making documentary is great, because we are collecting this kind of experiences, and this is essential in my opinion, because it is from these experiences that the new history will start. These experiences are the memory, the living memory of the commune.
On those beautiful words from Simona, I'm going to have to go because I'm tired, and we're. I don't think I'm going to go to the other party, which is good because I'm being careful COVID at the moment because of my low immune system. So, but also we're doing we do rituals every equinox and every Beltane and every solstice, and it's the equinox on Saturday. So we're organising a ritual to remember the energy of spring, which is often the energy of rebellion and revolution, which is the moment of the sap rising and the buds exploding. So sending you lots of lovely energy from spring, and it's been really a joy and a pleasure to be here. And I kind of now regret I hadn't been here at all the other ones, but I just did. It was also not having the energy and not wanting to be too much on computers. So I hope to be more present with you in the future, and it's lovely to see you all, friends and Nika and Savitri and Michael and everything. So lots of love and thank you very much, and see you soon. And happy birthday, TJ! And you're doing a really good job. Your bot is fantastic.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to see you.
Okay. Bye then.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
It was our longest, TJ. That's our longest assembly. How long? It was like 9, 10. Oh my God, it's 3 hours already or more.
I think the drunk one was longer. Sorry, just
It was like 5 hours or something. Yeah.
if we count this kind of encounters as a political.
Yeah.
Okay, who leaves first?
Yes. Okay, so I think maybe I should also leave, because tomorrow morning I'm going to have to wake up early to go have a walk with the guy from Goldsmith, who's also this Institute of Radical Imagination that I talked to Simone about. So we are planning to do visual assembly in Madrid when Zapatistas come in front of the René Sofia Museum. And it's a big, so it's a very big event going to happen probably when a lot of famous artists and some Zapatistas art, that is, they don't have a distinction, except of Paris Commune between art and craft. So they all will be exhibiting René Sofia. And so we are not part of that event. It's very competitive, I feel like, you know, people like it's a big deal who will be chosen and stuff. So and it's a lot of money involved. So we don't need any money, luckily, because we only use chalk, you know, and we're outside. So we only need ourselves. The things that we are going to invest, we're trying to organize that. We're going to try to invest in the communication with Zapatistas, because we want them to be the assembly that is always on, visual assembly artists as a facilitator. We only draw. We basically their chalks. But the way how they will make decisions is not understandable yet, because it's really, they're having a long process, as we would talk today. And they're not this Western guys who would just be told, okay, you have 40 minutes on Zoom now, decide what the colonial museum you will make. So it won't work with them. So they maybe need a couple of months, or I don't know how much, or maybe weeks. So we will try to figure out how to arrange it with them. And I have to wake up early tomorrow to go talk to this guy. But I was thinking also, maybe should we open some kind of dialogue or forum and maybe we can make this site of Museum of Care as an open pages where, for example, this project, I will just write everything I know and all the ideas, and everybody can come and comment on that. So maybe that's a good way to go. Because I love what Claire Farrell was saying about Extinction Rebellion. She was saying that they were in the beginning infiltrated by the police, because the police wanted to figure out what they're planning and so on. And Extinction Rebellion from the beginning said, we are very open, so you don't need to infiltrate us. We put everything up because online, because we are the movement of civil disobedience, and we kind of we don't. You cannot infiltrate us because we are mass movements and we're doing everything by consensus in this case, and we agreed to be arrested. Although now it's probably would be a different story. And they will need to invent another language in order to not be formally on demonstrations, because 10 years in prison is too much. I think it's not okay to. It's not
Why
a
can't
party.
you in prison?
That's
What
a new-
happened?
They changed the law now in UK. For protesting, you get that time in prison.
Now Claire Farrell was yesterday in a demonstration. So this is really, now it's kind of like a unbelievable moment. Should be.
It seems impossible that the courts would
Yeah.
prosecute any of that. It seems incredible to me in the UK that they would go so far in that direction so fast. It's like a test. It's like a stress test or something. It's I don't know. I'm very suspicious of this situation.
But I think it's a question of how you frame the conversation, because they are very straight, they're very square people who's putting this law. When they call civil disobedience, they're talking about demonstration, go with transparent. And for example, Claire, when I met her, when David introduced me to Claire Farrell, he was telling the story, who is she? This is the guys who protest the military fair in London by buying the tank in an open market because it was for sale. It was cheap. So, and they were driving in this tank in the costumes to the fair, being, making a demonstration on the tank and saying, okay, you're selling this stuff, we're selling our stuff. And then the press come. So I think it will be possible to invent another language that would not be considered to be a protest, because whatever they call protest could be, reframed. We are humans, we will possess language.
But how was it before? The thing about arrests. Was it maximum 1 month, 1 year?
No, they were very smart. They were in UK. So for example, when they block the road, you're allowed to stay 10 minutes or 7 minutes, or I don't know, 15 minutes on the road. Then you have to leave, and then you can come back. But if you do it regularly, and many people do that, you still disrupt the traffic, but you do it in a safe way. So they always like, you know, researched the law and did it in a way that, you know, you could be arrested, but it would be like, you know, you stay in prison for reasonable amount of time, like, you know, from days to months, not years.
Yeah,
was-
I mean, it was always also that the authorities are letting the protests happen. It's like this kind of peaceful dance that they do with protest. But I do know that there's nowhere that's harder for an activist to get into than the UK. That it was always been the case that as a foreign activist going into the UK has always been, we've been turned away, we've been held there trying to get into the country. So they are very controlling, but they sort of present this kind of more liberal sense of what they do or who they are. But actually, it's very controlled all along.
Yeah.
And there's no constitution in the UK, I imagine, right? It's like just laws. So it's kind of, I imagine it's easier to just go and pass some crazy law, right? I don't know.
But you also get tea in prison, which is not the case here in New York City.
Oh, no, yeah. Totally different from Brazilian prisons, of course.
Let's not talk about prisons. Let's talk about traveling. So let's all go to that, and then let's all go to Fire Island. I hope to make a vaccination in 2 weeks, and then another 4 weeks, and then go to New York and stay in Fire Island. So I will see Savitri. I will see Matt, who is 2 hours drive, probably Steve. Who else will come? So
Are you moving there? Like, good to New York?
no, I'm not moving to New York. I will just be there for maybe a month or two. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It just, yeah, I hope so. I don't know. I'm in this case, I'm with Savitri about moment of totally unknown, but also with Simona, trying to be optimistic because that's the only thing that makes sense. In any case, so guys, if you want to stay,